I am joined today by my dear friend, Mickeli Bedore. After knocking it out of the park as a top sales performer for IBM, Oracle, and Verizon, he said sayonara to corporate America and jumped headfirst into the entrepreneurship pool in 2015. Since then, Mickeli has started 5 companies, including Closers Media, which is how we met, and most recently Reverb, helping clients with a go-to-market strategy for rapid revenue growth. Mickeli, thank you for being my friend and for joining me today on Cupalo Conversations.
I've been looking forward to this. I apologize for being such a ding-dong and extending our time out, but I think we did it serendipitously, as you have some news to share about this episode that I'm honored to be a part of.
Yes. Well, I read a stat recently that once you make it to your 21st episode, you are now in the top 1% of podcasters because so many people give up. So this is a threshold moment for me, and I'm very grateful to walk that threshold with you.
Oh, honored to be your 20th.
Well, I would love to talk to you today about sales. So I would love to know, did you choose the sales lifestyle or did it choose you? How did you get into it?
If I'm being honest, which we should be in sales, it chose me in my 20s. I started selling for my Uncle Jana, who was my hero. My Uncle Jana got me into Taekwondo, got my black belt through him, got me into music, playing guitar and writing. And then last but not least, he's the reason why when everything went to hell in my 20s, I'll explain that in a minute, I still had this sales background. Now, mind you, I was selling frozen pizzas. So he hired me to stock the shelves at the grocery stores that he worked with. He represented Bernatello's Pizza. For those of you in the Twin Cities, you know it's one of the best pizzas ever made. And they were on the rise, and he was kind of like the new rep that was going to spice things up. And so he hired me just to stock the shelves. And then he's like, "Hey, Mickey, on Saturdays, do you want to go and ride along with me? We'll go do these little, you cook some pizzas and a free pop and free food and hang out." I'm like, I couldn't drive then. Oh, sorry, I was 14 when I got in this, so I couldn't drive then. And so we went out, and he would leave me at a spot, and then they'd get a call back a little bit later. They're like, your nephew is selling out pizzas. And he's like, what? He's just supposed to cook the pizzas. But they were 3 for $5 or whatever the deal was. And I don't know why. I like the cheeky bits of being a cheesy salesman at that moment. I have graduated since then, but like being a 14-year-old kid with braces, pretty non-assuming. I got my taste of when the thing runs out, I get $5. And that was kind of my first taste of commission. But no, in my 20s, I went to school for PR and communications, and then I was an entertainment agent right out of college. So that's what I wanted to pursue, was music, because I was a musician and I had aspirations of being an agent so I could represent myself, right? But what I didn't understand was compound interest, the negative way. And I was hanging out with rock stars, literally, figuratively. And I thought I was one. But I had the credit card and they didn't. So I was, taking them out for this and that. And then I found out that expense reports don't allow you just to buy anything you want, including cubes of High Life beer at volume. But I got put into credit card debt. So when I got let go, I was gifted with about $25,000 in credit card debt. And I was like, poo-poo, what am I going to do? And so I got into sales. I guess long-winded answer, I think sales chose me, but it was always there as kind of like a parent or a uncle or a brother, someone you can depend on when you need them. And it's been there ever since. So I kind of owe everything to the art and science of sales, even though probably wouldn't have been the person I would have wanted to hang out with in high school. They just always stuck around, and then I submitted.
I was going to say, you were probably great to hang around with, you and that credit card, Daddy Warbucks over there. Now, I've heard you say in the past that sales is a life skill. I'd love to know, what do you mean by that?
It's a survival skill. It's a life skill. Like, we live in Montana. There's a lot of seminars, if you wish, to learn how to homestead and survive and raise chickens. In fact, we took the plunge and are now raising chickens, which I never thought I'd say that out loud, but we are. And I think of sales is that same exact kind of life skill set. Meaning, if you want to get a promotion or you are trying to raise capital, there's so many life scenarios where to be able to competently communicate your value, ask questions in which the other side has to pause and think and reconsider where their stance was. I mean, if everyone was trained in sales in our political landscape today, or everyone was trained in sales in most civil situations, we probably wouldn't act like the jackasses that we do, right? Whereas if we were to learn how to properly communicate, which I think sales is, it's not just persuasion and articulation. I think it's more of, competent communication in which you can apply empathy. You've been trained on how to listen, because no one knows how to do that anymore. How to apply the concepts and the things that you've just heard, relate those tidbits that matter. I mean, communication is everything. And learning the art and science of selling, though it's called selling, it gets a bad rap. It's just learning how to be an Olympic level communicator, so that both sides, when engaged in any sort of either disagreement or potential relationship, whether it's professional or personal, both sides feel like they got away with something, or they both feel like they're getting exactly what they wanted in return, and everyone parts as friends. I think the world would be a better place if people took this skill serious.
So, why do you think, if it's so important and it really is rooted in great communication, why do you think sales gets such a bad rap? Why do you think people recoil when either they imagine doing sales, which a lot of business owners have frequently mentioned to me that they get sort of cringy when they imagine having to go out for the first time and sell, especially if that wasn't their skill set before, especially like a technician going and starting a company. Why do people have that repulsion?
Well, I think there's two skill sets that everyone should learn, and there's two repulsions that people have to both those skill sets, and this is baked in, I believe, is financial literacy and the skill of learning how to sell and competently communicate your value. Those are two things that when you start talking finance, people go, even though who wouldn't want more and who wouldn't want to manage theirs better, right? Just like who wouldn't want to hear yes more? Who wouldn't want to have, more partners and friends to call on because of mutual trust that's been established over years and years? Who wouldn't want those things? And that's what that's what financial literacy and that's what sales provide. But I mean, yeah, I think to your point, like, there's kind of a stigma to it. Now, then you have the flip to this, and there's people like Gary Vaynerchuk who are making their living now touting how important the skill of sales is. So we can't believe everything that we hear or read. But I think people that don't understand it. Okay, so people that buy into those stigmas, people that don't really understand it, you know what I mean, are the first people that, when approached to say, "Hey, founder," or "Hey, individual that needs to go raise money or make money or go sell a product or something," their first instinct is to back up and recoil. It's just the same way that not everyone goes to college to become an MMA fighter. Who wants to get punched in the face? Who wants to hear no? It's everyone wants to hear yes. But what they don't realize is the switch to psychology to learning the skill of sales is you are going to hear more yeses because you're going to probably hear more no's. So no isn't the bad guy here. Not hearing yes is. And the way that you don't hear yes is by asking for it the right way, and learning for when you don't get your way. What didn't I hear, or what didn't I apply? Versus blaming everyone else, including the art and science of sales. That's where you get this recourse, I think. But if people were to sit down and say, let's reverse engineer what I want out of my life, right? I want to hear yes more. Let's say I want to make more money. Let's say I want that money someday. I want to have enough that I can support my family and my bare bones needs and my needs, we'll say. And then I can pay for my wants and desires through investing in financial literacy. I think everyone would say yes to that scenario. But most people say no, not to the desired outcome, not to what happens when you learn those skill sets, but to engagement at the beginning whatsoever. Nope. And I think if we can switch that, that's what we're trying to do. That's what I've been trying to do for 12 years. And that's I don't want to get into the whole history of Reverb and stuff. But for me personally, as a revenue growth consultant and fractional CFO for so many years prior to jumping in with Reverb, was helping people understand that the boogie monster is going broke. That's the boogie monster. It's not hearing no from some prospect that you just interrupted, that's in the middle of their day trying to keep their job. They're not the bad guy here. Bad guy is what happens if you don't raise capital, or you don't hear yes from the last prospect you have in your pipeline. But that's the boogeyman. And that's the result. You don't have money, you don't have a business. It's a very unpopular concept, but I've seen a lot come and go for the various reasons that we discussed. Is I don't want to sell. I'm going to hire someone else to do it at $1.50, and they're going to burn through, a quarter of my burn rate. And by the end of it, my investors are going to be pissed, and no one will give me that next round that I need to survive. And now I'm back working at Wendy's. Probably not, but.
How do you approach prospecting, and what do you think people could learn from you in that regard?
So it's a funny thing, I actually just took on, so I always have two jobs. I don't know if you know this or not. I have ADHD. That's clearly not a secret. But, we've got our business with Reverb, the branding, marketing, sales agency that we run. And then I'm a part of Nomad Saunas. So this question is perfect timing, because I'm not looking to sell a couple saunas. I'm looking to scale this out and make a revolution and speak to people about this real medicine. I like to approach it, and I do this with the sauna guys too, because if you think that a founder who just got funded, who's a technologist, doesn't like to sell, try hippie sauna manufacturers. Come on now. They just want to sit in the sauna. Is we have to put it together to say who has the likeliest chance to buy that doubles as the people that you have the most comfort in speaking about your solution to. And that is a simple answer. Who have you had success with in the past? Who are they? Where did you find them? What is their personality like? What do they like to do on the weekends? Geographically, where do they live, right? When you talk to them about their struggles that you started this business to solve, because believe it or not, people don't admit it, but all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, why'd you start, why did I start Reverb? Oh, because I was sick of seeing the handoff from branding, marketing, sales agencies, because I was the recipient. I'm like, this isn't what we sell. And this is no way. This is what the prospect's wants, needs, and desires are. So we eliminated that. Same with you. You were just sick. You wanted to put people first in an automation, I'm not saying everyone, but in a business that should be highly personalized, but people want to automate it all. And you really can't do that when you are trying to help someone find that next advancement in their career that hopefully changes their lives, right? You can't automate those things. But that's the reason why you did what you're doing. That's the reason I'm doing what I'm doing. But we just have to find the people that we could walk up to in a room. Now, granted, a lot of this stuff's going to be done virtually, but let's pretend it's every engagement with a prospect stack is a networking event, and we have to walk up to them. We got to interrupt them because they're surrounded by other people. We got to figure out a hook once we get them to look our way. Like, there's all these different things that we have to do in a networking scenario, correct? Like, we've got to engage with them. I'm nervous. We've got to then figure out a way to wedge ourselves in without being, kind of rude. Then once they go, okay, I'll give you 20 seconds. What do you have for me? And then knowing when to shut up, ask them some questions, end the conversation early so that you can then grab their information or get some sort of a commitment to then have that next conversation. I think that's to me base level prospecting that we have to then virtualize, because everyone has email. You can do, cell phone. There's LinkedIn. There's all kinds of different ways that you can catch somebody when they're not engaged with somebody else. So how do we craft those messages to be appropriate and create interest? It has to be towards exactly them, not 500 of them, just them, just that person. And the little things that we know about that person and our background in helping someone just like that, understand that there are things coming down the pipe in the road that they may not be aware of, but we're not selling on fear, just informing. And then we guide that conversation to say, I would love to share some thoughts, or here's a podcast I was on, or here's something. Would it be appropriate for us to spend 15 to 30 minutes? I guess the meat of that would be taking the time. And this is what people don't want to do. And this is what, when we do our setups, this is something we just don't, there's no negotiating on this, is you can do more damage to 15 to 25 targeted prospects than you ever will with 500 to 5,000. We've all been beat up over the last 3 years thanks to COVID and people being stuck inside and people just getting sloppy with their marketing efforts. And they're not even trying anymore. What happens when someone specifically says, hey, I'm Lauren Mickeli, I signed Common Closes back in the day. Like the way that you did reach out to me. Look now, we become buddies. And we've never met in person. I mean, I know you said we did, but Having closers was a little bit of a gong show at the end there. So, I mean, there's a lot of people I hadn't met that apparently I had met, but I haven't met. So
Yeah,
but
it's all right. You're just saying I'm not that memorable, but I get it.
No, you wouldn't be. You are clearly memorable. I mean, think about how serendipitous this 20th anniversary or this 20th episode thing is. This can just
I
happen to
agree.
anybody.
I agree. Well, going back to this mindset, do you think people can do sales well if they don't believe in the product or service that they're selling? If you did not care about the product or services that you were selling, do you think you'd be successful? Is it such a formulaic type of endeavor that no matter what you're selling, you can do well, or does there have to be some soul in it?
Well, I mean, the popular answer, which would probably get you more listens, me more likes, is yeah, you should love everything you sell. Truth is, I don't believe that at all. There is a difference when somebody does love what they're selling, right? Like what they're tangibly selling. There is a difference, but there's two sides of that difference. Sometimes, and I see this in the startup world every day, the founders love their product too much and they don't love their customer equally. They love their product so much, too much, that they don't love their customer in the same exact way. From a personal standpoint, if you care about your family and your well-being like I did in my 20s, I would sell any piece of shit technology that you wanted me to sell, and I would do it at an Olympic level. So I could pay off debt, someday get married, not ever have the stress of having compounding interest on the negative side ever again. And you will do whatever it takes to do that. So that's number one. But number two is I learned in that process that I may not have cared about the product, but I loved serving my customer. So when those two things pair up, when you have a personal purpose, it could be credit card debt. It could be you want to get your kids back, and this is what this is what the judge is saying you got to do. It could be I've always wanted to buy a place in Nantucket. It could be I've always wanted to take Fridays off or summers off or whatever to spend. I want to be my kid's coach in insert sport here, and I want to be able to afford to do that by being really good at this thing and earning my stature where I can cut out at 4:30 so that I can accomplish those goals. That, I think, is number one. And then you pick a product and a solution that you think can do what it says it can do for your customers. And then your customers become the second, and by second, a close second to the first thing we just discussed, most important thing. Because there's something about putting someone else first and putting something above you. You know, I'm a Jesus follower. So, having someone above you to so you're not top dog. Because every time I think that I am, I'm not. I get humbled real quick. But you have to know why you're doing what you're doing. And that would apply to sales or pouring concrete or anything, really, is knowing your why. And your why, I'm not going Simon Sinek on this why. I'm really just looking at survival sometimes. It's maybe what you got to do, or you have dreams, hopes, and aspirations that only money can provide because those aspirations are bigger on a personal level. But number two, your customers have to become your favorite people on earth. And then third on that list is the product.
Well, let's talk about reverbs. The first question I have is, what does that mean to help them with rapid revenue growth? And what are the problems? What are the roadblocks standing in the way of that for them?
So rapid revenue growth to me is, let's just find the quickest path to opportunity and revenue. Like, what is the quickest, easiest path for us to build towards revenue and growth and opportunity for our clients? Because generally, we're trying to take on a 3 to 9 month project. You know what I mean? We try and get in and out for the first phase, and then not always, but we're almost always invited back for phase two. Phase two, well, if we're talking a lot of the companies we talked to last week, a lot of these, they want to get to a raise, or they just raise like a seed round, like let's say $250,000 or $500,000 or whatever, and they want to get to 1 to 2, then we'll do that. And then after they get that funding, they're like, yay, we love you guys. And then it's a long-term relationship that is still a risk-free, but that's what rapid revenue growth is to us, is to reverse engineer what I need to know what the metrics are. As a lifetime sales guy, what are the metrics, whether it's personal, professional, or like what's your burn rate, and how do we exceed a 3x that multiplier that's going to get you to this? We just need to know all those things. And then what we work together, and again, I hate to be cheeky, branding, marketing, sales, working in concert, because we're called Reverb, it's a music reference, is really, really important to achieve that, so that you have all three disciplines, if you will, working in concert, feeding each other. And a lot of times how we started is it comes through sales first. So it comes through the back door saying, all right, if this is what we need to achieve from a metric and a financial standpoint, then we've got to go do these things fed by these A/B test activities in the sales front, to then make sure that our website, our messaging, our lead funnel, our brand assets, all that kind of stuff matches. And we have to do it in accelerated form. Very rarely do we walk into an environment where it's like they have nothing. Now we do a lot of accelerators and so on and so forth. Are there some times where a lot of those things, almost too many of them, are missing for us to engage? Absolutely. Most times they have an idea of where they want to go. They have some of the right members of the team, just in the wrong spots. Their engagement process is dependent on overpaying for lead gen or automation or whatever. We implement, like we build, and then we what's the new buzzword marketing people are using? Not accelerate, but so we implement and build, but we also put this to work in real time with our clients. That was a commitment that I told myself many years ago, which is why I keep founding companies, as well as helping other people scale theirs, is I don't want to be the toad that wrote a book 10 years ago that hasn't been in the real market for 10 years and then sits down and is absolutely befuddled when someone brings up AI or how to leverage ChatGPT or any of this stuff. I just don't want to do that. So I've always stayed in the market, and that's part of our framework, is we'll build the entire front, like here's how, based on this market, because we usually we build our project based on market outcome. So if it's to get to 5 million, here's the exact process in which we're going to do it. And oh, by the way, we are going to be role playing. I am going to be sitting on deal calls. We are going to do pipeline management, like so on and so forth, like actual real in the weeds types of stuff. That makes us different. And along with the fact that we have a branding and marketing agency built into us, kind of makes us end to end. But the thing that this is one of the reasons why I started BBG a long time ago was I had literally, not David Sandler because he's dead, but I had Sandler certified people come in, Dale Carnegie certified people come in, Costigan certain people come in and train us quarterly. That, not to mention the in-house trainers we had and the player coach managers we had. They don't have none of these SMBs, technology companies, young professional service. They don't have that anymore. No one trains anyone, but yet the expectations are still that high. That's one of the reasons why I started this 12 years ago, is I was taking on these startups and they're like, all right, well, I started in recruiting, by the way. I don't know if I told you, I started building teams. We built a ton of teams. And I'm not going to name names, but some of them were like, all right, well, now that we have our teams here, salespeople just know how to sell. I'm like, there's no athlete, any professional athlete on earth who's been doing this since they were 7 years old has not had a coach or a playbook. That's insane, And the reason why I thought it was insane is because I had 10, 11 years of corporate experience, and we were trained to death, role plays to death, we'd role play every deal, every call. Like, people think I'm nuts when I show up to some of these startups and they're like, we're going to do what? Like, this is how it's done. And you know what? I didn't invent it. The greatest sales organizations, Oracle, IBM, right? NetSuite, SAP, they invented it. Did they make more money than you, Mr. and Mrs. Startup? You're damn right they do. Billions more. So let's just do what they do. And then we just kind of condense that into a kind of paint by number version, because when you're a professionally trained salesperson in a cage, we used to call it the lower bowl cage, like everyone's on the phone and it's kind of like Wolf of Wall Street type of, it wasn't, but it was. No one's going to bite on that. There's no technology startups to be like, sign me up for that. No one asked for that. I didn't ask for it either. But what we try to do is make it more paint by number. Probably what we did differently is more micro focused on people and engagement prospects that make them comfortable, and then a very easy framework for them to execute alongside us, so that we don't just kick them to the curb and say, "Hope that." That's why I hate doing workshops, because I think they're insensitive. I mean, I do them because people will pay me well to do them, but I always want to stick around afterwards. I try and negotiate in, like, I'll just hang out for the next couple of months to make sure that everyone heard what they heard and is doing what they were told. And then I want to hear there's like, people need more than just a silly workshop in a Blinkist book review, and then they think they're going to be, the king of the hill. That's not real.
Well, something that's very loud and clear today to me, and being a salesperson myself, is that it is a craft. It's a skill that's worth cultivating. It often gets a lot of underappreciation. I think the barrier to entry is very low with regards to sales, which is why they let me in the door. And there's very, very little support along the way. And you have to go and actively, I think, find a lot of external resources, because I certainly didn't find them within the companies that I had been at for the last 10 years. What is a way that people can cultivate this? Because I know you talked about what they should cultivate in terms of great listening, comprehension, empathy, delivery. You have to care about your customers, understand them, have a focused prospecting approach. If it is such an important life skill to survival, to thriving, how do people go about cultivating it?
Practice. So when I said the thing with the workshop, I only mean what's being sold. So we had workshops, if you want to call them that, at Oracle and the corporate places I just mentioned, all those the Sandlers, all that stuff. If you want to consider that was a 4-hour work, it was technically a workshop. The difference is after that workshop was hands-on, like a gym coach. It's like, hey man, lift those legs. I mean, I know so you're an athlete. Lift those legs, pop your don't lift like this, lift like this, use your back, so on and so forth. That's the only gripe I have about a workshop is you cultivate by practice. Like, you can't cultivate. We have a big garden. You can't cultivate food from the ground if you don't constantly move it, hoe it, water it, feed it, right? Same goes with any skill. And this could be any skill, not just sales. But competent communication comes from constantly cultivating it. That comes with working with someone like me to do consistent role plays over real type deals. It's something I do on the side, and I do it with Reverb. It is reading a book, and it is going to a workshop. But then what is the plan after that workshop? Do you have a role play partner? Do you have a email? And by role play, I'm just talking about practice. I mean, we've all taken Spanish in high school. How many people still can speak Spanish when you haven't used it for 20 years? Nobody. It's like the skill of Spanish, or the skill of sales, competent communication, really anything, is if you want to cultivate it, you have to work it. You have to feed it. You have to water it. It's a skill set and a life skill at that, and a language and communication skill, which are the easiest to lose. Language arts is the easiest to lose because the way we communicate changes every day. There's new like little catchphrases or new movies coming out, new things that change. You got to change with it. So that's, in my opinion, that's how you cultivate any skill, is to feed it, water it,
Practice. Yeah. All right. My last question for you. I've heard you say to make fire with your hands, and you've helped teach a lot of people how to go about doing that. Can you tell me more about what that means and what that can look like for people who are currently working a W-2, who are launching a business, be it a side hustle or a full-blown endeavor? And how is it that you want people to be thinking of this, especially in light of the economy we're in right now, and there's a lot of challenges out there? So what does it mean, and how can we all benefit from it?
Making fire with your hands is being able to, my version of that is to be able to support yourself in any situation professionally, right? Where you don't have to depend on someone else. I have spoke about that in regards to entrepreneurship. I have spoke about that in regards to investing, making your money work for you, and sales. And the reason why I bring up those three things, and I'll focus on the first two, is making fire with your hands is coming up with a concept and a path in which your money starts to work for you. Easiest money to put to work for you is money that you don't depend on. Your family doesn't depend on. So if we're talking to our W-2 people, because we haven't much this session, is W-2 people, look at me. You have the biggest advantage over most of us, other than your time. So time management is of the essence to make fire with your hands, but putting together a budget of which you can live off. And I will tell you this, we all have a budget. There are certain things that you can budget down as a W-2. You can rent, you can do all kinds of different sacrifices and take in that kind of money. And I'm not going to go Dave Ramsey on anyone because I'm more of a debt leverager than anything, which he is totally against. But I am for money, soft money management in the beginning, because that's how I got out of debt. Because I had a W-2 and I got somehow here I am. So like, I'm not some special kid. I just learned these things that I'm going to bestow. Is making fire with your hand, technically, Lauren, to answer your question, is supporting yourself without the need of someone else. It's making fire with your own hands, meaning not going to someone else's fire and sitting by to stay warm. It's sitting by your own fire, feeding yourself, making fire, doing that. But as a W-2 person, it's actually quite easier because most of these FICA banks won't lend to someone like me. I have to do portfolio loans. This is too much. The point is that to leverage existing cash, to leverage your W-2 is an advantage that I do not have. I listen to all these podcasts about side hustles. Sometimes the best side hustle right now is leveraging your W-2 from a financial and investment standpoint so that then you can fund whatever dream you want. That's how I did it, if I'm being honest. I stacked commission and I stacked birthday money, believe it or not, stuff I'd sell on Craigslist, which is now Facebook Marketplace, so on and so forth, so that there was a pile of cash. And I'm like, you know what? This amount of money my family can live on for the next 6 to 9 months. So if it goes well, it goes well. If not, I can always get a job. And then the other little chunk, I turn in my day trading money, which has also grown into other investments, including a sauna company, lo and behold. So making fire with your hands is, to me, not just an entrepreneurship play. I mean, eventually it is. Entrepreneurship is investing. So real estate investing, any type of other investing, you are an entrepreneur. So if your goal is just have the title of entrepreneur, save yourself a lot of stress and stay at that job and just keep investing until you don't have to have that job anymore. Or if you're driven for something else like I was, it wasn't about the money at that moment. It was like, I'm itchy, just like Lauren, to do something different. That's still making fire with your hands. But either scenario, if you're a W-2 employee and you're thinking about bouncing, either way works. That's making fire with your hands. You are an entrepreneur if you invest. So you don't need the title. Okay. It's just a job. It's not as cool as you think. If you are called to entrepreneurship, it is as cool as you think. So go do it. But make sure that you're positioned from a financial standpoint that if it doesn't go well, because 1 out of 10, that's a statistic, a real one. We didn't just make it up. It's been around. You may not work out. But I will tell you this, going from someone who had to go back to corporate in between my little journey because of some health issues with my son, I needed better insurance. They will hire you as soon as you put your resume out there because of the experience that you have. You went out on your own. You tried it. Didn't go well, but you are bringing levels of experience back to the table that the rest of these applicants do not have. So in my opinion, making fire with your hands a shot is a win-win.
Do you think everybody should try to work for themselves in some capacity? And not in the sense you meant, like when you have an investment portfolio, you are then an owner and you are making money while you're sleeping. But I mean, going actually the route of running a business. Do you think everybody should do that or no?
No. Here's what I mean. If you don't what I mean is no to these people. If you don't have the desire, if it's never crossed your mind, you've heard of other people doing it, it seems cool for them, but then no. Like my dad will not eat cilantro. I don't know. He's like, I hate cilantro. I will never like it. It tastes like soap. You've probably heard this, right? He will never eat cilantro, just like he will never be an entrepreneur. For those people, no. I would highly recommend investing, but then if you do hear it, again, there are two profiles of entrepreneurs. There are the people that, should you work for yourself, you should put together kind of a storyboard or a whiteboard, kind of a whole thing of what you're trying to accomplish. For some people, you might find, I just want to be an entrepreneur. that was me. I had no plan, none. I did recruiting. I did consulting. I did fractional sales. Like I did whatever it took for the first 2 years at BBG because I just wanted to go back to my hometown at my 20th anniversary or high school anniversary. This is a true story. I only did it because I wanted to sound cool at my high school thing. That is, I don't know if I ever told anyone that. Actually, happy I'm doing a flipping podcast, but I don't. That was me. So you're not alone. Because I was like, well, I knew how to invest. So I'm like, I'm just going to be an investor. I didn't think of investor as an entrepreneur at the end, but I do now. Maybe that's it. Maybe you just want to be cool. Have the funds to do the cool thing. And if it doesn't work out, at least you're still an investor who is also an entrepreneur. So you can go back to your 20th, and tell them you're still cool. But then there's those of you that I think are probably a little bit more like Lauren, and then I graduated into this, where now I can't imagine any other life. That's just who you are, and it's never going to go away. And it may someday, if you go and have horrific failure, I've had both success and failure, but I'll tell you right now, it's never going to go away. Because I thought the more money I made once I paid off my debt from investing and from corporate, I thought it was going to go away. Never went away. And then I did it. And then I started getting good at consulting because it was easy. Like it was basically just an extension of what I was doing. So I'm like, well, this isn't satisfying me. So I started a software company or a CBD company or a sauna thing, or, it all of a sudden it became that. And then you realize, holy crap, this is just like my dog eats dog food and licks a lot of things. You're an entrepreneur of the creation varietal, meaning you want to create, you want to build, you want to scale, you want to do. And the only way that you're ever going to even begin for the rash to start to subside is to give that first opportunity a try and learn from it. It might be successful, or you'll learn, and then you'll do it again and you'll do it again. But I think, Lauren, it's not an easy question. Like I get asked it all the time where people are like, should I, should not? You hear you're one of three voices generally, right? Or two. And if you hear zero, then no. If you hear zero, then no. But if you're one of those two people that's like, I'm built for better, then I think that you fall in those two profiles, and then you just need to figure out which one you're going to let out of the cage first. And I am always of the mind, invest your own money to start in the first dream, because that first dream is probably going to morph into something else, and then you didn't lose your ass trying to build it.
I love it. Well, thank you for joining me today. And with a bigger thank you, I wanted to say you came into my life at a very critical moment when I needed support in the biggest way to figure out I had been called to something else, but I didn't know how to walk that road. And so I'm very grateful that I met you through Coffee and Closers, and I saw what you had done to bring people together as the rabble rouser that you are, and then had watched your journey from afar on LinkedIn, building the new life in Montana. And had I not reached out to you, I don't think I would be here today, it's amazing how many things have to go right. It had to go right that I met you once upon a time in the Twin Cities, and that I stalked you on LinkedIn enough, and that I was brave enough to send you a note asking to meet with me. And then, being able to work with you to figure out a game plan to change my life. And so I owe you such a debt of gratitude. And, I think I never take it for granted. I think there's so many people along the way that come into our life when we need them. And I just never want to forget to say thank you for you being one of those people when I needed you.
Wow. That means a lot. And this relationship has meant a lot. And I'm glad. It's always fun to relive how it got going. So thanks for that little trip down memory lane, and for those kind words. That means a lot coming from someone I respect like you.
Well, thank you for sharing also your insights today. I think we all have a lot to learn when it comes to sales as a life skill, and also figuring out what the best path forward is, be it as a W-2, as an entrepreneur, as an investor, or as a business owner. So thank you again for today. And I look forward to our next conversation off of the podcast.